What's up, everybody? Welcome to the rLounge. How my day in court landed my ex-boyfriend in jail for contempt. X, entitled ex-boyfriend. EL, ex's lawyer. CJ, judge. ML, my lawyer. MM, my mom. My kids and I lived with X in Oregon for 5 months in 2001. He was an overbearing, know-it-all narcissist whose favorite thing to tell me was, "I am older than you, therefore I am smarter than you." He worked as an industrial engineer at the time, and I agree, he was intelligent, but a bear to live with. My kids and I packed up and left him late April 2001. We moved back to my home state of Illinois. I met my boyfriend in August of 2001 and got pregnant mid-September. Fast forward to October 2002. I get a court summons for paternity establishment from my ex for the beginning of November. I was totally bumfuzzled by this, but on the day of court, my mom and I went. My mom and I are seated at one table, and across from us, X's lawyer and X are seated with X sending me smug looks. The court judge enters and the crap show starts. Okay, this hearing was requested by X to request a DNA test for my son's name in order to establish paternity and then custody. Do either of you have anything to say? Yes, I want it to be known that after my son is proven mine, I plan on getting full custody. She should have never kept him from me. I stand up and tell the judge, Your Honor, I have no issue with him wanting a DNA test. However, I do want to point out that I haven't been in this man's presence since April 2001. My son was born in June of 2002. Before we waste any more of the court's time, here's my son's birth certificate. I'd love to know how he thinks that I was pregnant for 14 months in order for him to be the father. The court judge frowns. The X's lawyer jumps up and runs to stare at what the birth certificate stated. And X is still saying, "It proves nothing. He is my child." The court judge asks X, "Sir, when was the last time you had sexual relations with the child's mother?" "About 3 weeks before she left me." The court judge literally does a facepalm before stating that he's throwing this case out. X's lawyer trying to calm X down, but he's not having it. "I am not going to be kept from my son. I'm taking her to court in Oregon. The judges in Illinois are all stupid morons." The court judge turns around, stares at X, then has him arrested for contempt of court before walking out. The sad thing is, X knew he was born in June and still convinced himself that he was the father, and my mom couldn't stop laughing all the way back to my house. Oh, and by the way, I never heard from him again. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd think it was too stupid to be true. First community response from RarKitty2. He sounds about as stupid as my dad when he requested a maternity test during my parents' divorce. Yes, you read that correctly, a maternity test, because despite being there and cutting both cords, my dad stated in court that he didn't believe our mom to be our mom, and therefore he should have custody. Wingless Matt chimes in. He's an industrial engineer, but couldn't figure that? Well, it fits for most engineers that I've met. Odd Artist thinks, engineers are a special breed of human. My son is one, but he has not accepted this fact yet. On occasion, I have been able to translate their language into something even a lowly project manager can understand. Engineers simply see things differently than us plebes. Fruitbat1994 says, with the dates involved, how did this even get to court? Misusings of Apathy says, you can file in any case. The judge doesn't look at the facts until this hearing. This is the hearing where you call BS and the judge throws it out. As far as his lawyer who filed the case, the person took the check but didn't ask about the dates, I'm sure. Up next, we are the X-Files on social media. My husband is one of the most entitled men that I've had the misfortune of knowing. After our divorce, he hooked up with a younger woman that lived here in town. We had 2 kids together that he rarely saw, but he had full access to in accordance with the divorce decree. However, he liked telling people that I wouldn't let him see his kids. The younger gal he was with got pregnant. However, their baby was stillborn. He had told her a multitude of bad things that I was to have done to him. Around a year later, she ended up pregnant again, but he had started losing interest and was seeing another gal on the side. When she had her son, he couldn't be reached because he was with the third gal. That cycle continued because the third gal ended up pregnant too. The now ex that just had her baby came to me, met his 2 kids that we had, and it came out what he had said regarding his not seeing his kids. He had told her that the baby she had just given birth to was not his. The 2 of us would meet up so the kids could have playdates and know each other. After about 2 years, the third gal caught up with us at the park. You guessed it, he had dumped her for someone else, who was now pregnant and was telling the same story to her about his now 3 exes. Our little group of moms with kids he doesn't see has grown to 7 women. Since social media is such a huge thing now, we have a private group on the most well-known platform called X-Files, where we share photos of all these half-siblings and keep up with each other. It's pretty bad when our biggest supporters are not only ones that have gone through the same thing, but with exactly the same sperm donor. At last count, my entitled ex-husband now has 22 children. He has no clue about this group to my knowledge. Dear Analysis 5116 chimes in first. Might be time for him to find out just how much legal grief he can receive. Maybe even take the whole thing to public social media? Get him the kind of publicity he deserves. DOP chimes in. Several of them have thought about doing DNA testing at the same time, then calling Maury Povich. I personally thought Jerry Springer would be more entertaining. Monk Carey thinks, I'd get a nice family photo with a picture of him in a frame to the left. Family! And for DNA, all they need is kid 1 who he admitted was his. Cheek swab, and down the line it goes. No Celebration 3737 says, 22 children. Pretty sure he doesn't pay child support to none of them, am I wrong? Or more probably only yours because you are legally married. Damn, your X-Files group can literally make 2 soccer teams of half-siblings. Next story. Michael's day out? This story is about the time my mother-in-law lost my 3-year-old son, Michael. A little background. Michael, 3, went to preschool with his best friend, Jacob, 3, in the local high school. My mother-in-law also worked at the same school. The story. It was the day before Thanksgiving. My husband took the day off, and we decided to go Christmas shopping while Michael was at preschool. We had rushed through the store at record speed to find exactly what we needed, flew through the checkout, and were on our way to pick up Michael. Unfortunately, traffic was not on our side that morning, and we realized that we were not going to make it for Michael's 11:40 pickup. My husband called the school and was transferred to his mom. She was a secretary for one of the administrators. Conversation goes like this. Hi, Mom. Katie and I are stuck in traffic and won't make it to the school in time for Michael's dismissal. Do you think you could walk over and pick him up? If you can't, we understand. We could just call the classroom and have them hold him.
Of course I can pick him up.
Thanks, Mom. If you want, we can all go for lunch after.
That would be great. See you soon.
Short, sweet, no one seemed confused about what was needed or expected. And if that was the case, I wouldn't be writing this story. We arrive at the school a few minutes before noon. We go through security and arrive at his mom's office. His mom is on the phone and gestures for us to come in. And we realize that Michael is not in her office. She hangs up the phone.
Well, where should we go for lunch?
Mom, where's Michael?
I wouldn't know.
My husband and I run out of her office and straight to the preschool, childhood development classroom, literally 2 doors away. After interrupting the current class, we explain what has happened and hope that Michael is just waiting for us in his classroom. Unfortunately, he was not. Security was called and they started pulling all the student teachers back to the classroom to figure out where Michael was at. While I waited for the students, my husband started driving around the neighborhood to see if Michael decided to walk home. My mother-in-law did nothing to help. She stayed in her office. After the student teachers started coming down to the classroom, one tells me that Michael and Jacob were telling everyone that they were going to have a sleepover at Jacob's house, and that when I wasn't in the drop-off pickup line, they thought that maybe the boys were having a sleepover. I immediately called Risa, Jacob's mom. No answer. But I leave a message. Call my husband and tell him Michael is with Risa and Jacob. He comes back to the school. Mother-in-law is now asking why we would allow Michael to sleep over at a friend's house the night before Thanksgiving. We ignore her. I continue to call Risa, but no one is answering. Michael has been missing for over an hour at this point. Risa calls back and explains that she was called into work and that her sister picked up Jacob. Risa says her sister took the boys to McDonald's and they were at Risa's house now. As we were leaving, mother-in-law says,
Hey, I thought we were going out for lunch.
We stopped asking mother-in-law to do anything with our children, and Michael has gone extremely low contact with her. Edit. Mother-in-law played the victim after we blew up at her, claiming that she didn't realize that class was dismissed. I mean, bells ring at the end of class. Pretty hard to miss. Then, when we weren't buying that BS, doubled down with,
I thought we were going to pick him up and take me to lunch.
Then again, played the victim.
I told all my friends that I was going out to lunch with my son, and now I look bad.
The next day, Thanksgiving, we were very cold towards her. And at dinner, she just blurts out,
It's all your fault. If you hadn't been late, then none of this would have happened.
Then gets up and fake cries. We left right after dinner. Wafer 2016 says, I am so very glad your little boy was found safe. That must have been the longest, most terrifying hour of your life. DOP chimes in, yes it was, Then about 9 years later, she left both of them at O'Hare Airport. The Holy Warden has another thought. Okay, funny story. My brother went missing once, so we had suddenly realized that he wasn't around when he was supposed to help clean the bedroom, so we went hunting for him, turned the house upside down and inside out, tore the garage apart, and checked the yard. We call family friends. They are now patrolling and trying to find him. We call the police. Police officer comes to our house, looks around, tries to help us find him. No dice. His partner begins to walk across the property and is starting to tear crap apart, not literally. And about another hour in, my brother comes out of the bedroom with the officer next to him. The officer cracking up. My brother, like 3 or 4 at the time, managed to curl himself up in his blanket that we, including the 2 officers, thought he was just a pile of bedding on the bed. We all had a good laugh, including the officers.